Today we are going to discuss about the AI impact on art and on the art market, discussing where does the value in art comes from, as well as, of course, discussing copyright questions and also generally speaking how AI can help artists in different ways in their daily lives, and also how AI can be used in varied ways connected to the art market. From looking for art, curating, and how the bias might also create some issues with this curation and evaluation of the value of current art pieces. And to do so, I'm going to discuss with Ornela Ramasauskaite, who is an art market expert and researcher specialized in cultural and geopolitics, art investment and collection. And she's now finishing her PhD thesis called Modeling Art Investment, the Context of Geopolitical Conflicts. But beyond academia, she has already 15 years of experience in the art market. She's the founder of artXchange Global. Within this company, she's consulting public and private clients on art marketing and investment strategies. She has been often recognized as a leader in this topic today, and I'm really happy that I had the chance to have this discussion and now to share it with all of you. Hi Ornella, it's a huge pleasure to have you today to talk about this really timely topic of art and AI, in particular the impact of AI on art. And I'm really looking forward to this discussion because you suggested several exciting topics that I didn't even know was something in art and how AI was playing a role, from evaluating different art piece or creating different or moderating, choosing art pieces. But first, I want to discuss maybe more obvious or more common things that I encountered, and in particular this morning. I saw this post on LinkedIn about someone who flagged several profiles on Spotify of artists who created entirely music with AI and just shared this on Spotify. And they had this profile had like 1 million active listeners every month. So the first thing I wanted to discuss with you is how AI seems to affect the value of art in general.
First of all, hello. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm very glad that we can speak about art, which is my huge passion and profession and academic field. And the situation with AI. I feel that we have very similar situation now as we had in 19th century, late 19th century, when the photography, came into the world, was invented, and people really think that it's the death of art, or at least they have lots of fears that artists will not be creating anymore, like this, the death of creative thinking, the death of skills they used to, really train all their lives and so on. But I'm very skeptical about that. And I really believe that AI tools can be used both for art market lovers or art lovers, helping them to invest in art or to find out better exhibitions, art biennales, and so on, or for artists for various reasons. It can be helping them to brainstorm better ideas. It can be helping them with creating marketing material, because usually not all artists can afford to have a personal assistant or manager, and there are lots of tensions between artists and galleries. Also, AI tools can help them with royalty fees, because of every time reselling artworks should really benefit somehow to artists. So really, I see only positive things. And of course, now there are lots of gray areas because it's a very new thing, and especially in art world and culture world, which is usually very, it's usually slower. It's usually more, elite. People are more careful with innovations. So nowadays, I think that it's very normal that we all have fears. And of course, some legislation is needed for sure. But with time, I believe same as photography exists, and nobody now discuss if it's art or not. Same gonna be with AI generated art, and also the way we can use AI to help for creating even classical oil on canvas.
Yeah, it's very rich answers, and I will have many follow-ups. So thanks already for this valuable input. The first thing that made me think, yeah, I really appreciate this comparison to photography. And actually, during several talks that I've made on AI, I liked to close with one photorealistic pencil drawing. And it's a very impressive drawing, and many people, actually most of the audience, will not see that it's actually pencil made. They all think it's a photography. And what I think is interesting about this example is that there is still a business, a market for photorealistic paints and pencil-made art, while you could take a photography and have something that is similar, but the difference is the process, right? And I guess we attach value to this process. So that being said, do you also perceive today a change in the value of art? For example, as we can generate easily some type of art or pictures, let's say, with AI, do you see that actually the value on art markets for hand-drawn paints is increasing, changing, or not reacting yet?
Yes, so it's a very important question, and I need to start with some historical information. So the history of art value itself, how we understand art value, both from the aesthetic perspective, what is beautiful, for us, and also how do we evaluate art, like monetary, like how much does it cost, and also it's another thing, the art which is important for art history, but maybe it was not, or it is not now, commercially successful. So those things are different. And of course, historically, it's easier to talk about them, from theoretical perspective, from time distance. Now everything is more complex. So historically, when there were no technologies and even there were no paints, you had to produce your own paint in order to paint, to prepare the canvas. It was really very old times. So it's natural that it was very valuable that somebody can paint in general, that somebody, or draw, whatever, that somebody, in Renaissance, the perspective was kind of invented. So it was a very huge innovation, and people who managed to understand how to do it, they were seen as very talented and innovative creators. But with time, as there were more and more innovations, things started to change. It was more important, how subtle are you with, catching light, or later with Impressionism. In general, it was a huge innovation because it changed how we understand art in general, because it was more about the impression, not about the realistic drawing, whatever. And of course, it came with the photography, because we kind of didn't need anymore that exact drawings, as photography was already affordable. And with time, in 1917, it was a very, very important artwork made by Marcel Duchamp, the fountain, I believe you all have seen this artwork, which is the pissoir, put upside down, and they called a fountain. And what did he say? He said that it's enough that I, as an artist, decide that something is an artwork, which was ready-made. It was a thing he found somewhere, and he put to the on the pedestal, let's say, and he put some kind of insight into it. He created a concept. So in 20th century, it was a huge boom, later especially with conceptualism, with Joseph Koshut. That idea is the most important thing in art, not the skill, not the impression. Like modernism was the cult of originality, to invent something interesting, something unusual. No, it was the concept itself. So the idea, the creative thinking of the artist, and of course not like something original, but also some interesting message, some kind of philosophical idea which you express in whatever thing. It can be even a pen, it can be even a short writing on the paper, and if it is interesting and if it is done by an artist, it is an artwork. So when we know all this, nowadays we need to understand that the skill to draw something in a photorealistic way is nothing special anymore. It can be trained. It can be trained quite easily. I did it myself when I was preparing for the Art Academy 2 years, and you are absolutely fine. I mean, every 16, 18 years old child can start drawing something photorealistic, in a photorealistic way. But now what is important, and why sometimes it's very expensive and sometimes not, if you have an interesting idea, and if you argument that this specific idea needs that kind of expression in photorealistic drawing, that's why it's expensive. And shortly, I want to present a very nice example of two artists, twins artists. They are from orphan house. They were growing without parents in a specific unit. I don't know how to express it. And later they became artists. And they created, I don't know, let's say 10 photorealistic drawings of the children who are without parents. And what was the main message? It was not the main message that, oh my God, they can paint, they can draw in such a photorealistic way. No, they had a message that they don't care about your money. They don't care about your donations. They care about the time, and that we came back to this orphan house and we sat with them. We were drawing them, and it takes a lot of time. We were talking to them. We had a personal connection that was very inspiring for those children. So this artwork now is in a museum, and now it's expensive, not because it is drawn in a very photorealistic way, but because of this time moment. So in this case, of course, Midjourney can create pictures of those orphan children very fast. But the idea is not about photorealistic expression. It's about time and emotional connection and so on. So maybe too long example, but every time in art, the most important thing is the idea behind.
So based on this example, which I found fascinating, and please continue answering to this full extent because it's very enriching. What I'm wondering with your expertise is also, do you see, because there is scarcity has a value, right? And basically, if something is unique and you don't have 2,000 copies, it usually has a higher value. And I know very little about art and art markets, but I can imagine, and I'm curious to hear what you know about this, is that physical art pieces, for example, oil paintings, still have a very high value, top values in these exchange markets because you have a unique physical object. Now, if you think about digital art, are there like pieces that have been sold very, very expensive on this market, or the fact that basically you can just copy the image, reduce the value, and it connects also to what people try to do with the NFT market also, right? To try to make unique, to attach a token or basically something unique about a digital art piece. So long story short, what do you think about the value, and can we reach high value with also AI generated digital art, or is it not possible because we value also the scarcity, which is usually only possible with physical objects?
Okay, objectively, oil on canvas or painting, it does not have any higher value itself. Just historically, it was a very common and hierarchically, it's like the highest way of painting. It's all on canvas. So historically, we have lots of famous artists and artworks which were made by all on canvas. But now, if somebody paints like that, it's not enough to be to have a more expensive art piece comparing with the drawing, comparing with the installation. Absolutely not anymore. Now, and historically, what is important is that if you created something new, something interesting, either material or the way you see the world, and you express it on oil on canvas or whatever medium you have. So nowadays, artists who gonna understand or find out how to use digital tools, AI or whatever. Now we have post-internet art, I don't know, even like topics like, the boom of selfies or the boom of Instagram, or whatever, what we are experiencing now. If artists gonna, reflect it in an interesting way, it's enough for an artwork. And it doesn't matter if you make, kind of caricatura all on canvas, somebody, making a selfie, like portrait, but like a selfie. It's already something new comparing with the typical landscape, which we don't need anymore somebody to paint. So this is really, really important, because it can be digital art, digital world can be a new inspiration pool for artists. But another part of the question was about NFTs, and it comes with a very actually valuable possibility for artists, because not even NFTs, we better should talk about blockchain, because provenance, it's a very important thing in art market, because part of the artwork's value is provenance. Provenance is the history of owners. It's because it is a huge difference if a concrete artwork was exhibited or was owned by the Queen of England, or was it owned by, just a random girl from the next street? So that's why it's very important to speak about blockchain. And also for artists who could use NFTs as digital passports of their artworks. Doesn't matter, either digital artworks or typical, let's take all on canvas. If they make a duplicate on digital duplicate, and they create an NFT, for them, it's a possibility to get royalty fees every time the artwork is resold. Well, because theoretically, they should get it, but practically it doesn't happen, because it is, the artwork, when it goes to the secondary art market, it's lost somewhere, in the world. So this is a very good opportunity. Another topic is about prices of famous digital artists. And of course, there are some of them who are really very rich now. I think it was 2020 when artwork was sold in at Christie's art auction house for $69 million, as far as I remember. Also, now we remember from last year, November, when Catalano artwork was sold. Well, it was banana with tape on the wall, but it was paid with cryptocurrency. So what I want to say that this digital NFT art world, it's not about art so much. It's more about crypto people and about, creating value, creating a boom, creating some awareness. And it's absolutely different type of thing. It's more about collectibles. And it doesn't matter, is it a very beautiful digital artwork, or is it something, I don't know, it's just maybe a baseball player's card. It's just a collectible, interesting for specific community, and that's why it's more valuable or not, because of rarity and all that stuff. But it's absolutely different world, different market comparing to the classical art market. And itself, art market has different art markets. For example, one situation is with let's say classical artists. I wanted to say dead, but those who are already on secondary art market, who are sold via auction houses usually. And another art market is for contemporary artists who are alive, who usually have galleries as representatives, and they are now participating in the art world. So it's not that much about, again, art itself anymore. It's more about the artist's personality, about his or her connections and all that stuff. So NFT art market is like another one. So, and they can be even not connected anymore at all. We can have a comparison, even though music is not my field, like, Mozart and some kind of rapper. They have absolutely different, markets and audiences and pricing logics and all that stuff.
So what what I understand is also that basically now I see how you could create value by doing art, AI generated art, because you can also come up with these stories, with this story about the author, about the piece itself, and create value in that sense. And again, I keep referring and thinking about this example of the photography. It just makes some things feasible in a quicker way. Let's say, it's not just a click to take a photography, of course, a beautiful piece in particular, but now you can create some things quickly with generative AI. So of course it will disrupt, affect what we are currently doing. But if indeed, as you say, the thing that on the market is more valued is the process, it will not kill at all art. It will just create a new type of niche, of different type of creation. But that being said, I think it's a good connection to the whole question of copyrights and also the thing that I mean, the best example is maybe the Ghibli example, the Ghibli studio, because there it was very clear that basically it was generating, it has been trained on Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki work, and then you can generate similar art piece. And I had many discussions about this, and some people were suggesting, well, it's just good marketing for these pieces because I didn't know about Hayao Miyazaki, and now I know, and now actually more people are watching his movies. And I thought, okay, point taken. Many things about this case, about the fact that maybe he definitely didn't want this type of marketing. The other thing is that you have also a mass of other artists where you cannot identify their work, their piece of work when you generate art, because they are maybe smaller artists with a style that is maybe harder to recognize. And I'm wondering if how this can affect basically artists, and what do you think should be a solution to basically retribute these artists, the fact that you train model, then we generate art piece, and it might affect their work, and what's your whole view basically on this copyright and retribution question?
I am very liberal because I also graduated Art Academy. So we had to learn art history. Even, part of the practice is to copy masters' artworks. So I'm just, sometimes very, it sounds very funny that somebody thinks that some artist can create something out of the blue in some kind of absolutely isolated environment. No, we can also think of, we can double check ourselves when we, for example, look into, let's say, Pakistani miniatures. We don't understand this art because we are from the Western world. Same, we don't understand some tribal African art. It's just too far from us, and we have absolutely different understanding of colors, of composition, and all of that stuff. Meaning, we are the, the people of lots of other similar people behind us, and we took their art into our, I don't know, brain, whatever, and we work with it in a creative way. So I don't see any difference when we talk about, AI tools which learn from other artists' artworks. Yes, if you, as you started with this question, if you're gonna tell the AI tool, make a copy of Mickey Mouse, of course it would be not nice. It is same as it is not kind of allowed, to draw a Mickey Mouse. If it's allowed if it is appropriation, but anyway. So to make a photocopy, not photocopy, but in general, copy of Van Gogh, artwork, it's not allowed even if you do it with on canvas. But if it is, used in a creative way, it's absolutely encouraged. So why AI tool should be, different?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, indeed, that I've never heard this position, and indeed I always see this parallelism. So I'm trying to wrap my head around it and see what I think about this, because it's really changing my view of these questions. Because indeed I remember also talking to the mother of a friend who was a designer, and she was creating pattern for fabric for different products and different brands. And once he had like a copyright issue, someone came and said, okay, this is exactly the pattern we created. And she could not remember seeing this. She could not remember using this. And basically what happened is she just saw the pattern maybe somewhere, because indeed you're exposed, you go to markets, you go in different places, countries, to get inspiration from what other have made. And maybe at some point she got stuck with this image that actually somebody else already created. And it's very interesting. I mean, it really connects to what you're saying here, is that we also constantly copy and reshape. And based on creativity, also, I'm curious about what do you think about creativity, generally speaking, because I have really often this discussion about the fact, well, AI cannot be creative, and it's a difficult, maybe, topic, also philosophical. But most of the time, humans are judged also creative when they mixed things in a new way. But things also that they experience. I think we can think about Lion Man, this very old statue that was found in a cave in Germany, and it's in some sense it's creative because it's the first time we see this kind of mix between an animal and a human in an art piece. But at the same time, it's just mixing things that exists: a lion head and the body of a man. And AI is also doing kind of this, right? It's remixing together things that it has been exposed to. But do you think AI can we call it creative in the way it's creating art, or it's the person asking the question, prompting the model that is creative?
It's a very philosophical question, and I believe that my answer could change. If I start answering now, I will say, yeah, it is creative, and later I can finish that. No, and I believe it will change all the time. I still think that the one who sits in front of the computer or mobile phone is the creator. And AI is just a tool, same as, the pencil is a tool, same as oil and paint is a tool, are the tools. So same is with AI. Of course, it is new way. It's not a cold media as we can take from Marshall McLuhan's books, Cold and Hot Medias, but Yeah, it's absolutely new. Again, we had this example with the photography, which was also a very shocking change. But I don't see huge issues. Of course, I saw there are now, I think, recent MIT research findings that AI, like large language models, they kind of kill our creative thinking like slowly. Again, nothing is just black and white. If now we're gonna start thinking about can we write in a beautiful way as we used to write in our school? Not anymore, because we are used to typing. So same for artists, of course, if you take drawing as your main media, you should practice it. Of course, using AI tools would kill that, but it's not different for anything. I don't know if the ballet dancer gonna start creating dance choreography by AI. Of course, she will stop, being an elegant dancer. So I don't think we should, look even for this one concrete answer. I think it's a lot of about depends. But the one who creates the prompt, and maybe, sometimes people who have never used the AI tool, they think that you just write, a smart prompt and that's all, you have an amazing image. No, even try to write a post, try to write an article. You need to spend lots of time in order you get a really nice looking, smart or beautiful piece. Even though in art, beauty is not the standard. Sometimes artists just need some, good expression of their idea, but not necessarily beautiful one.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a very interesting way to put it, definitely. So do you think that it's okay? So bottom line, you think it's okay that these models train on art pieces, on books, or do you think it will be still necessary to try to find a scheme to retribute artists? I mean, we have seen this ruling last week, I think, about Anthropic on Claude. They trained on a lot of books, and basically the judge in the US say it's fine because they paid the book and they can train. And it's actually, I just realized that it's very similar to your argument. The fact that basically we do get inspiration by other people, so we can also use the books and this content in the same way to train AI, who will just get inspired by this content. So do you think we should still try to find some retribution for the artist, or it's okay to continue as we are doing now?
Well, in ideal world, I was thinking about it. So in ideal world, I would think like that it should be some kind of, I don't know, extension, some kind of trick, tool, whatever, to put some chip or make NFT of your artwork you put online. It can be digital artwork, so it's easier. Or if it is, let's say you create a painting, so you make a photo and you upload it online. So you should make maybe NFT or do something with this thing, with your file, and mark yourself. If you are an alive artist, do you want it to be used for trainings or not? If you don't let it, fine, nobody should take it. If you let it, maybe there should be 0.0001 euro for this in order to, pay for your kind of creativity, not, very big amount of money, but maybe something, and it would be like a very logical, fair choice of an artist himself or herself.
I see. And this actually made me want to move to the next part. You suggested something that I really didn't know could exist, and I'm very curious about it. It's the how can you use AI in a different way, not necessarily to create art, but to help collecting, to help create a gallery. What example do you have with this role of AI that I'm really clueless, to be honest?
Yep. So there are some of interesting platforms, databases, tools where AI is used to present statistics, to kind of forecast something, or just to help find out what is present on a market, let's say today, like Perplexity does. And what can you buy. So I think it's useful, it's fine, but people should be very, very careful with it, and they shouldn't trust it just easily. They should double check all the time. For example, if somebody gonna ask you what is the average price of a car, and you would take an old Daihatsu, which was my first car, and you take a new Rolls Royce, and you will put those two cars, and you're gonna say that's the average price of a car. It wouldn't be a good answer, even though logically it's kind of okay answer. So same is with all those forecasts, because let's take Picasso. He created thousands of artworks. So one pricing is for paintings, other pricing is for drawings, another pricing is for ceramics. Again, paintings, blue period, red, blue, pink period, abstract art, different pricings. So same is for everything. Yes, maybe there are specific exceptional, cases where everything can be very predicted and, statistically logical. But still there should be a human factor which not kind of checks it, but checks the input. So the answer might be correct, the output might be correct, but the input should be very, very smart.
Mm-hmm. So that really connects to what the way I usually see and argue for the use of generative AI in particular. It's you always need to filter in and filter out. So here you exactly mentioned this. You need to filter in. You should be careful about your prompt, the quality of your prompt. Which tool do you use? For example, if you ask a general model to count the number of R's in a strawberry, it's not made for this. It will fail. But if you ask this model to count the number of R's and allow the tool to use code, you'll get the right answer because you're using the right tool. And then you also mention here, so I see better what you meant by using AI for collections. You can gather information. You can gather information within online galleries, looking on the web. You can use AI, of course, for forecasting prices, demands, and this could be also other type of AI, not just generative AI, but for forecasting prices. Typically in finance, we have just predictive AI tools, what we traditionally call machine learning and deep learning, not generative AI. So I indeed understand how all these could be important. And as you remind, always filter out in particular, well, with anything, with generative AI and anything actually, checking the source, the validity of what has been said, how it has been computed, for example, these examples. So, for example, in your practice, how do you use AI for this? Maybe if I'm not mistaken, you help sometimes curate art. And how do you use AI specifically in these tasks?
Yeah, so I use AI a lot, daily, absolutely, for different reasons. A lot for writing, but I don't use it for final decisions regarding buying art or advising people, because that is part of my job. I advise curators, collectors, which art to choose and to buy. Absolutely not. And part of my research, because now I am in the process of finalizing my dissertation, is about like decision making, and using, of course, AI, because it's a very good tool for that. And here I want to pay attention to geopolitics, which we agreed we're gonna touch. It's a huge difference if, let's say, a Pakistani want to buy an artwork, and a person from India wants to buy an artwork. And because let's take Kashmir, they have a conflict about it. And the prompt you're gonna create and ask AI, which is usually trained on more Western type of information naturally because of various reasons, the answer might be absolutely, absolutely wrong. And as we all know, those who work with AI, when you're gonna start putting some keywords which are better for your case, for your nationality, for your context, it will start agreeing with you. So your answer, even though it might look very, very logical, calculated with some nice statistics, it might change a lot, looking from the geopolitical even perspective, from your nationality perspective. You know, it's much, much easier with Russian and Ukrainian artists because we know who is the bad one, yeah? But when we talk about those, you know, conflicts which kind of divide the world now, the AI tools can go ballistic because they will be very polite, but when you're gonna force them to agree with you, because we have this kind of, you know, bias thing in us that we look for information to just to confirm our biases. You can think that you decided with an amazing help of AI and statistics and so on, but actually it can be an absolutely delusion.
Yeah, and it's a very, again, I never thought about this connection to this, indeed, what we call the weird bias, that it reflects better the Western civilization way of thinking. And if we do use, for example, these tools to evaluate art or to look for art and art pieces, I understand now also how it could affect indeed the valuation and the perception again of and even looking, maybe failing to find other type of arts that come from different places in the world. And in the very sensitive topic indeed you brought about conflicts, where again we know that we can fine-tune these models, that on these sensitive topics you might have some decisions to hard code some things in these models. For example, thinking, okay, we'll define that this group are the bad ones and we'll hard code this, and you should, so when I say we, I mean the company creating the language model could decide basically to shift the opinion in one direction or the other, which eventually here could affect also the art markets. So that's a very interesting thought that it never crossed my mind in this context. But so as you open this this topic, what's your dissertation about, and what do you do about or see about this use or connection between art and geopolitics?
Yeah, there might be lots of different angles, and I really struggled to find the one I will spend my time on. And actually, I started with a bit different attitude, but I struggled a lot with getting information from the art databases, because in the world we have few important art prices databases, ArtPrice and ArtNet, and actually it's very hard to find out how everything is calculated, and there might be again some biases and some manipulations. I don't say that wrong ones, but still there might be some specific lenses, and historically we will, you know, easily gonna find out that white male from Western world, of course, you know, rules the tops in the art market, at least historically. Now the situation is, of course, changing. So as I struggle to get this information, now I am trying to understand what's the effect of the artist's nationality when he or she comes from the conflict zone for the decision makers, collectors or museum committees, to make a decision to buy this artwork or not. For example, let's say we all know France support Armenia in the Karabakh conflict, even though by law it's absolutely Azerbaijani's territory and Azerbaijani already Azerbaijan already took it. Finally, everything kind of solved. But still, France is more pro-Armenian. So when the French collector or museum director wants to buy artwork from the Caucasus, can we be sure that he or she going to be very objective, and they will look only in the, what is the objective beautiful artwork? What is the objectively important artwork? My guess is that it might be that Armenians going to be presented more. So this is the angle what I decided to work on. And we'll see what's going to be the final result.
And do you think it will be just affect what you show, but I guess it might affect the value as well? There could be also some
Absolutely.
type.
Absolutely. And I did some small research because there are some artists historically who were or still are presented in a wrong way from the nationality perspective, because art used to be and still is a very important player of the soft power. For example, Russia called Mark Rothko, who is one of the top modern postmodern artists in the world, as the Russian American artist. Actually, he was born in 1903 in Daugavpils in Latvia. And just now, because of war, there are some specific initiatives which started, to review the real presentation of important artists. We can take Malevich, we can take Chagall. Rothko is also one of those important names. And finally, they are presented in a right way. But if we think about tools, same about, AI tools. If you Google, if you prompt, find me the most known, the most expensive Russian artists, they will appear there. But if you're gonna find out the most known Latvian origin artists, there were times like now, a few years ago, when Rothko was not on the list, while he is. So, and when you present him, and maybe there are some smaller platforms, not that dominant ones, where some artists are presented, let's say, correctly, even though sometimes this correctly is not a very, clear thing. It's always a matter of, perception. So in some cases, he or she will be presented as X origin. Another case, and the price is going to be smaller. And when it's a dominant nation, price is going to be higher. But now with Russia, what happens? As it is a huge canceled Russia, movement, now it's not even good to be described as a Russian artist. So now everything is, comes upside down. So yeah, there are lots of subtle things, and absolutely, your nationality affects the price. Same as gender, same as, of course, other criteria. But yeah, that's why this input we have on the internet is very important. And in a lot of cases, it is not necessarily right. And that's why AI sometimes might have an absolutely wrong answers.
Because it tends to reflect indeed this bias and amplify sometimes this bias. We are all biased, but it's interesting, or at least it's important to notice which type of bias we detect with these tools. And in addition, to notice that our bias can be fed into it by our prompt, as exactly you mentioned before. So again, there is a huge, and it has been a discussion I had many times these days to potentially do research on comparing the bias humans have in certain contexts, even for legal work, and comparing to bias that these tools have, because they might be in some sense, in some situation, less biased actually than humans, despite the existence of some limitation and bias. As time is really running out, I'm still wanting to touch upon the last very topic that you suggested, is that also AI can be used in for not necessarily generative AI, but for example, to detect fraud, to analyze ancient art pieces, or using computer vision and all these different tools. What have you witnessed already as tools, application of AI in this type of questions?
Yep. So I'm very, very skeptical regarding AI tools which are created to forecast our prices. I am very skeptical because I know the subject so well, and there are lots of small details, and it's impossible to have the good one, at least for now, and I believe for a long period of time. But there are some startups which work on some specific scanning tools, and you can, let's say, scan a huge cultural heritage object, or you can scan a sculpture, even an old painting. And with AI help or whatever digital technologies, you can detect some specific things. So it really can help to preserve art, to use this information for the insurance and all that stuff. So again, you really always need to look into the concrete case, concrete technology, concrete startup. But all the time, I will recommend to be very aware of the thing that startups might disappear and your information might disappear with the startup. So be aware of that. And also look who is standing behind. Now, as we live in the really era of disinformation, we always need to double check what is the source of it and so on. So very similarly can be done in this field too, because cultural geopolitics, cultural engineering is part of the big power, games. And the memory studies, let's say when we have a conflict regarding territory, and let's say when we need to identify the, I don't know, was it a mosque, was it a church, was it and we can use AI tools with some biases or even some specific needs. Maybe some scholars can be paid or can be funded because all projects come with funds. So really, I recommend to be very aware what is standing behind, because in NFT world, which is also we talked about it a bit, there are some reports which became very kind of respectful reports, but the founder of the report is somebody who's pushing his own project. So it's not a big news. Lots of industries have that kind of stuff, but that's my message, that be aware of what you use, and of course use it with some due diligence, and always look for an art market expert in the team. I feel that sometimes IT specialists come into the market with just very simplified thinking that, oh, it's a problem, we will solve it. But there are some subtle details which are very important, because we work with historical information or some subjectivity in art world. And in art world, it's not only subjectivity, it's a lot now about PR and marketing. So sometimes personality and his or her network is much more important than the artwork itself.
For the artist, the PR the artist is doing. Wow. Yeah, but that's exactly basically connecting to the beginning of the conversation about where the value comes from for art. So maybe to finish, one last question, probably a very, very not trivial to answer. What do you think will change, or if there is something that will change 10 years from now in the art market? What will be the biggest change related to the rise of AI?
As artists, we're complaining that it's impossible to create something new anymore because everything is created, everything reminds everything. I think that now they have a very interesting tool exactly to create something out of it. Or it's not necessarily, like creating something by using AI, but even, thinking about this topic, being inspired and start creating something, whatever, paintings, installations, music, whatever, is already something original, something absolutely new. So I believe that there are going to be artists and even movements. For example, metamodernism is one of the possible definitions for nowadays art. We'll see. We need some time to see if it fits or not. So it might come out, and maybe after, I don't know, 20 years, we're gonna see current artists already, taking important positions in art history books and art in museums who started something new with AI. So this is one thing. Another thing is with really like, selected technology. Like I said, like I mentioned about, blockchain. It's very important to put some transparency to bring some transparency in the art world. It's very shady now. It's crazy shady. When we speak about older artists, dead artists. If some important players, so it be Christie's, some important museums, they're gonna start, to push the market to use specific tools. And if it's gonna become the standard in the market, it can really help for, first of all, artists. Of course, it will be a very big problem for the galleries because they should rethink their business model. They wouldn't be needed so much anymore, but it's natural. They just need to think how to be useful in another way. So this also could bring some transparency because artists should get royalty fees. Customers, collectors, whatever, art lovers, buyers should know what artwork they are buying, what is the provenance, what is the history of the owners, or in the future they should leave this, information for their grandchildren and so on. And of course, in all the, restoration, preservation, of course, really there are some technologies and they improve for sure, can make life easier. But everything, I believe, gonna take lots of time because art market and the cultural heritage, those people are a bit, they are slower. So they still, write, in very old type of notebooks or some, information, and I in some cases even don't know how to use email. So it's gonna take time.